Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Mahida Fasha binti Ali and my metric number is A21A3447. Now I want to present about the data description with the first point, our group presentation. Data can be generated through observational methods. Data is a measure of variables collected by measuring the value of one or more variables in a population. Through the study conducted, the data can be classified into types, aspects of type or source. For example, data by types are quantitative data and qualitative data. Quantitative data is a data that's measured in the form of a numerical scale, and it consists of internal data and ratio data, whereas qualitative data is data that cannot be measured in a numerical scale but consists of name or label and needs to be quantified for processing. Example of such data are nominal data and ordinal data. A data set consists of a group of data that is frequently shown that is classified in tabular form. Moreover, variables of various variation are represented in each of the columns. There are several modern statistical analysis software such as SAS, which is statistical analysis software, MATB, and SPSS. However, our group chooses software in the form of SPSS to analyze the data as well as make it a data reference in writing the reports. We are representing a group of 12 prepared data set titled Child Car Seat in 400 different stores. We selected 150 observational samples to study. Next, selection was made of 12 samples out of 150 data samples according to analytical format, descriptive statistic, and frequency based on the lowest metric number of our group members. In addition, we use secondary data sets to conduct this study. Our group found that variables data should vary as many as 9 variables having 2 measurement methods. Among the names of the variables are sales, comprise, incomes, advertising, population, price, chef logs, age, and urbans. Meanwhile, the 2 measurement methods used are scale and nominals. Next, the variables that use scale measurement are sales, comprise, income, advertising, population, price, and age. However, the variables that use nominal measurement are chef log and urbans. Besides that, the analysis conducted by our group is summary statistic, graphical representation, numerical descriptive measures, statistical analysis using software, and theoretical modeling. In addition, we only use 2 types of variables, such as numeric and string. All variables names use the numeric variables type except for 2 variables names, namely chef log and urbans, which use the string types variation.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Alia Fatih binti Effendi. My number metric is A21A2284. Thank you for your explanation, Mahida, and I will continue part 2.0 sampling data and record categorical data. And I will choose 150 observation from 400 observation. And I will choose 3 variables such as sale, income, and price. In the table 1 sales growth, the highest percentage are from 20.7%, which is 7.05 until 8.76. Meanwhile, the lowest percentage are from 0.16 until 1.88, which is 3.3%. After that, table 2 income growth. The highest percentage are from 16.7%, which is 82.91 until 95.28. Meanwhile, the lowest percentage are from 10%. Table 3 price growth. The highest percentage are from 26.7%. Meanwhile, the lowest percentage are from 0.7%, which is 24 until 41.
Have a nice day. My name is Elizabeth Pudana Tuba. My metric number A21A3244. Today, I will present about 3.0 is numerical discussion measure. Number of classes. Formula is 2k more than n, which 150 equal to k more than n. 2k more than 150, which 28 more than 256. K equals to 8. Therefore, the number of classes is 8, which 28 is equals to 256 and greater than 150. Next is 3.1. Measure of central tendency, measure of precision, and the variation of income. Measure of central tendency is mean, median and mode. Mean explanation: x equals to fx divided by n. X 10,823.68 divided by 150 equals to 72.16. So 72.16 is the mean of income. Median explanation: location of the median class equals to n divided by 2 ovation equals to 150 divided by 2, so equals to 78 ovation. Therefore, the median of classes is 70.53 until 82.90. LM equals to 70.58, class is 20.38. So 73.91 is the median of income. Mode explanation: therefore, the mode class is 82.91 until 95.28. LM is 82.91. Classes is 20.38. So 87.04 is the mode of income. Next is the measure of position, measure of number income, quartile. Find location Q and Q3. Explanation: Q1 is 150 divided by 4 equals to 37.5. Class inventory is 45.77 until 58.14. Q3 150 divided by 4 equals to 120.5. Class is 82.91 until 95.28. Find value Q and Q3. Q1 equal to 15.31. Q3 equals to 94.05. Quartile range is Q3 minus Q1 equals to 43.74. Next is measure of variation. Variation 2 is income. Variation 2 equals to 721.28. The standard deviation is 26.86. Next is 3.2, measure of central tendency, measure of position, and the measure of variation of price. Determine class. Class price is max entry minus minimum entry divided number of classes is equals to 17. Measure of central tendency, mean, mode, median. So 113 and 56 is a mean of price. 114.28 is a median of price. 180.88 is a mode of price. For interval range is 33.15. For standard deviation is 347.71. Next is 3.3, measure of central tendency, measure of position, and the measure of variance of cell. Determined with class. Class of cell is fixed entry minus minimum entry divided for number of classes equals to 1.72. Therefore, the class width of its cell is 1.72. Measure of central tendency, mean is 7.53. The mean of position. For median is 7.44 is the median of cell. For mode is 7.52 is a mode of cell. For inquiries rank is 4.67. Standard deviation equals to 67.66. That is all from me. Thank you.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Azfar bin Muhammad Sokan. My metric number A2632. Okay. Now I will continue my group presentation 4.0 graphical presentation drawing. Okay. Same. From the graph above, the x-axis use the midpoint and the y-axis use the frequency. The midpoint must calculate the lower and upper bounds for each class to get the midpoint answer. After calculating the midpoint, each midpoint must be compared to the frequency to each class. The total frequency must be equal to the sample size, which is 150 for the data set. Okay, next, income. From the graph above, the x-axis use the midpoint and the y-axis use the frequency. The midpoint must calculate the lower and upper bounds for each class to get the midpoint answer. After calculating the midpoint, each midpoint must be compared to the frequency to each class. The total frequency must be equal to the sample size, which is 100 of the data set. The last one, price. From the above pie chart, we can see that every color is represent to the percentage for class interval from the smallest percentage each class interval with lowest frequency to biggest percentage each class interval with highest frequency. Okay, thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Syamirul bin Nizam. My metric number is A21A2675. Today I want to talk about statistical analysis using SPSS with numerical descriptive measures calculating by SPSS and using manually. I will take one example, which is mean. The mean using SPSS for the sales group is 7.5171, while the mean by using manually calculate is 7.53, which is different from 0.0129. For the income group, the mean using SPSS is 72.19 and using manually is 72.16, while both have difference between 0.03. And for the price group, the answer of mean by using SPSS is 113.48 and using manually is 113.58, while both have a difference between 0.1. From the graph histogram by using SPSS software, the x-axis use the midpoint and the y-axis use the frequency. The midpoint must calculate the lower and upper bounds for each class to get the midpoint answer. After calculating the midpoint, each midpoint must be compared to the frequency of each class. The total frequency must be equal to the sample size, which is 150 of the data set. Next, from the above pie chart, which is price groups, we can see that every color is represent to the percentage for class interval from the smallest percentage each class interval with the lowest frequency to the biggest percentage each class interval with highest frequency. Lastly, from the bar chart by using the SPSS software, which is sales group, the x-axis use the midpoint and y-axis use the frequency. The midpoint must calculate the lower and upper bounds for each class to get the midpoint answer. After calculating the midpoint, each midpoint must be compared to the frequency of each class. The total frequency must be equal to the sample size, which is 150 of that. For the hypothesis testing, we using the t-test, which is one sample test. There are various categories under a field such as sales, income, and price. The difference for all category remains unchanged at 149. The test for the sale is 31.513, while the mean difference is 7.51713, and the confidence interval of the difference for the lower is 7.0458, and for the upper is 7.9885. For the income group, the t-test is 32.719, while the mean difference is 72.187, and the confidence interval of the difference for the lower is 67.83, and for the upper is 76.55. For the price group, the t-test is 61.891, while the mean difference is 113.480, and the confidence interval of the difference for the lower is 109.86, and for the upper is 117.1.
Next, I will continue the presentation in part correlation analysis. Correlation analysis is a statistical technique used to determine how two variables are related. In statistics, the word correlation refers to a relationship between two variables. A relation exists when changes in one variable are accompanied by consistent and predictable changes in the other variables. For instance, we wish to quantify this relationship, measure its strength, develop an equation for predicting scores, and ultimately draw a testable conclusion about the population. Here there are 5 steps. Step 1 is hypothesis, step 2 is significant level, step 3 is SPSS output, step 4 is decision rule, and last step is decision. Next is confidence interval. Confidence interval is referring to evaluating the interval of statistic containing a population parameter. By using the SPSS, we collect the result of the 95% confidence interval for your lower boundaries at 0.004 and the upper boundaries is 0.036. The standard error for this dependent is 0.008. Besides that, it can be said that 95% confidence that the population parameter is between 0.04 and 0.036. 5.5 Prediction modeling. Multiple linear regression is the most common form of regression analysis. It allows us to use several variables at once to explain the variation in a continuous dependence variables. It also allows us to isolate the unique effect of one variable on the constant dependence variable while considering that other variables are affecting it too. Thus, every value of independent variables is potentially related to the dependent variables. The model is represented as y equal parameters 0 plus parameters 1 x1 plus parameters 2 x2, where y is the value of the dependent variables. Meanwhile, x1 and x2 are known constants. In our analysis, the data set contains many numbers of independent variables. The dependent variables Y is the sales group, while the income group is X1 and price group is X2 are two independent variables. Thus, multiple linear regression would fit the data better than simple linear regression. Table correlation shows the R value between sale and income is 0.234 and price and income is negative 0.142. Both of them is less than 0.3. Thus, income is not associated with both price and income. Next is table test of normality. The Shapiro-Wilk test of normality on the sales give a p-value of 0.001, which is less than 0.05. Thus, the assumption of normality of the terms of the sale is not met. Next, the model summary table show the R-square value is 0.183, which means 18.3% of the variation in sales group can be explained by income group and price group. Next, the table ANOVA shows the p-value from the ANOVA table is 0.001, which is less than 0.05. Therefore, at least one of the two variables which income group and price group can be used to model sales of the child car seat. The last table is coefficient. The table coefficient shows the equation y equal parameters 0 plus parameters 1 x1 plus parameters 2 x2. The equation is sales equal 11.437 plus 0.020 is income plus 0.047 is price. Thus, for every unit decrease in price group, the sales of car seat child will decrease negative 0.47, while the income group of purchaser car seat child remains unchanged. Inversely, for every unit increase in the income groups, the sale of car seat child will increase 0.020 and the price group of the car seat child remains unchanged. The 95% confidence interval for income group is 0.004 and 0.036, where the value of doesn't fall within the interval, again indicating the income group is a significant predictor of sale, whereas the 95% confidence interval for the price group is negative 0.066 to negative 0.2x, where the value of 0 fall within the interval, again indicating price group is not a significant predictor of sales.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Alia Fatima binti Effendi. My number matrix is A21, A22, A84. I will talk about 6.0 calculation. We learn how to use graph and table to examine data. We create a distribution table from our raw data and divide it into two groups because the dependent variables are all different. We are able to cover the cost of using SPSS. It was employed by a variety of academics, including ours, to analyze complicated statistical data. We set up and import designated variables name, variables type, title, and value levels in this assignment using SPSS. Statistics are already employed in our daily life for things like making prediction, quality testing, weather forecasting, illness prediction, consumer product, financial market spot, and so on. Statistical play a crucial part in almost every element. Thank you. That's all for my book 12.